The Justice Beat is dedicated to the 1 in 3 Americans touched by incarceration. The Justice Beat is where we discuss all things justice.
Today's topic, Since I've Been Down, an upcoming documentary film. Gilda Sheppard. As a child growing up in Detroit, Gilda often sat in a closet with a mirror and flashlight watching shadow and light create shapes in darkness. Her grandmother encouraged her to discover stories from these shapes. Her discoveries, or stories take shape, inform her filmmaking. Her documentaries uncover stories of triumph. Gilda is an award-winning filmmaker who has screened her documentaries throughout the United States and internationally in Ghana, West Africa, at the Cannes Film Festival in France, and in Germany at the International Black Film Festival in Berlin. Sheppard is a 2017 Hedge Book Fellow for Documentary Films.
Good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Justice Beat Talk Show. And good morning to our family on Real STL News. We're so happy you're joining us back for another edition of the Justice Beat Talk Show. Our guest this morning is the illustrious filmmaker, Miss Gilda Sheppard. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here in St. Louis as I sit here in Seattle, Washington.
Right, exactly. And thank you so much for rising grandly this morning because you're about 2 hours behind us. Okay.
Anything for you in this wonderful program.
Oh, you're just great. Okay, you're great. We got to get together soon because I got to meet this personality in person. Okay. All right. So this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about a film that Gilda has made. She's the creator, executive producer, and director of called Since I've Been Down. And we're going to delve into a conversation once we show the clip. So we want everybody to have an opportunity to see the clip, to show the trailer for the upcoming film. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the making of the film and what types of impact Gilda hopes to have with the audiences around the country. Stay tuned.
There must be no doubt about whose side we're on. People who commit crimes should be caught, convicted, and punished.
You will be put away and put away for good. 3 strikes and you are out.
In 1993, Washington State was the first state to implement the 3 strikes policy and make it okay to put people in prison and throw away the key.
Young kids were getting involved in horrendous violence. Things were spiraling wildly out of control.
The face of the threat became young black and brown men.
This is our hill. Don't come here.
The police would round them up for whatever reason they could.
What you doing here? You don't live around here.
Some people didn't commit crimes and were just caught up.
All my friends is either in prison forever or dead.
My name's Kamani Carter, and I'm currently serving a life sentence. My history is the life of a lot of kids out there in our community. And my reality as a young man doing life in prison will be their future if we don't start creating better ways of dealing with our children.
For somebody who was 18 years old at the time of the crime, you don't know who he's going to be 20 years on.
It's about being able to see the Kamani that I've become and not the Kamani that I once was. For a lot of those kids, I don't think that they've matured enough to calculate the consequences for their actions.
He was 11, and the gangs were already starting the recruiting process.
A lot of answers that people in society are seeking will be found in prison. We've caused pain, but we caused pain primarily because we was in pain.
The Black Prisoners Caucus is about liberation.
The more that we begin to educate ourselves, the more empowered we become.
We've created a support group for positivity in the most unlikely of environments.
You're never too old to find that peace with yourself.
Victims are perpetrators, perpetrators are victims. And we're all victims of this system.
All right, welcome back, Justice Beat family. Thank you so much for taking time to view that clip with us. And we are back with Miss Gilda Sheppard, the filmmaker of the clip that you just viewed. All right, Gilda, in the beginning of the clip, it made me think about the incident that occurred with the young man in South Carolina and the Army officer. There was a piece in the clip that talked about, they asked this young man, what are you doing here? Why are you in this neighborhood? It was some of the summations about some of the reasons why people are getting caught up in the system. That particular verbiage rang a bell to me with this recent incident. And I'm not sure if you are aware of it, but it's been on Facebook. And, you know, our young people are experiencing a level of extreme racist behavior that I'm wondering what, from a public health perspective, what type of long-term impact that's going to have on this generation. Tell me why, before we get into this conversation about the long-term impacts of these multi-layered traumas, why was it important for you to make this film?
Because of the long-term impact, particularly, I love how you punctuated in public health, because that's what it is about. It's a public health issue, and it is encroached in policies. 3 strikes, you're out. The policies that lead to gentrification, disinvestment in communities and neighborhoods, which brings in a lot of policing to clean it up, which means that many of Black and brown and poor people are going to prison. And before that, they have a non-negotiable pathway to the possibility of joining gangs and those kinds of things. And so I think that the reason why is because I love children. Mm-hmm. And another reason why is because I can see the long-term impacts on neighborhoods, on families, and particularly children. Mm-hmm. You know, joining gangs and then being booted off to prison, being suspended from school, right? Mm-hmm. Having social, emotional problems. But my film is not a slow fade in the gore. It talks about the subject in spite of these horrible conditions. Mm-hmm. And they find themselves in prison, mm-hmm. oftentimes for life without parole. And in my film, it's not like they didn't do the crime. This is to prevent our children from moving into illegal and criminality, right? Mm-hmm. You know, because of the disenfranchisement in communities, that these young people who were sent away to juvenile detention places and then on to prison, now adults created a phenomenal education program called TEACH out of a group called the Black Prisoners Caucus. TEACH, which stands for Taking Education and Creating History. They want to create history and not just change it, to create a history so that young people in these neighborhoods, mm-hmm. that they are not supposed to be in, mm-hmm. right? That they have a breath of fresh air. They meet even with teachers, the superintendent of schools, to talk about social, emotional mm-hmm. Integration in the courses, right? Mm-hmm. Those kinds of. They meet with prosecutors. They meet with defense attorneys because they want to create another way and change, as you so well stated, the possible long-term impact of these public health issues that start with horrible policies. So mm-hmm. we're not only into restorative justice, hurt people. That's important. Right. But we're into transformative justice. We want to change policies. Mm-hmm. And so do the young men and women and the older, because it's intergenerational in prison, mm-hmm. who want to change policies. And I think that is a two-headed coin, restorative justice and transformative justice, mm-hmm. to change policies. And that's the reason why I'm into defund the police. Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you define? Because we've had multiple conversations and discussions mm-hmm. about mm-hmm. defund the police. How do you define it?
I define defund the police as not only training for the police. I'm talking about a formation of resources and funding into education, into neighborhoods, and so that children and families, right, into jobs and employment and those kinds of things, so that children and families can have an imagination of possibility. Right? When you look at how much money is going to the police, and if you look at the kind of gear that the police have to wear, and the kind of guns that they use, and the kind of training that they have, right? So it's not just retraining the police,
right?
But it's also investing in our communities. When you think about how much money is going to the police departments and those kinds of things, because I have a police officer in my film, and I ask him a question. I asked everybody this question, right? Main characters, what is justice? And I told these two officers that I was going to ask them that question. So it's not like I wanted to ambush them. And the officer said, I never thought about it. And I'm not pointing my finger at these officers. I think even Chauvin, I'm a prison abolitionist. I don't think just putting him in prison will change it.
Right.
I really don't.
It's not. And our guest last week also said she was a prison abolitionist. She believes the prison should be abolished because we're not doing enough by just locking people up and throwing them away. There has to be some look into behavior modification, rehabilitation. We cannot just put people in jails and prisons and let them languish with no intervention.
Right. I do believe they need to say guilty, though. I must admit, right? It's not like I'm saying like, oh, there's good people on both sides. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I'm saying that we need transformative justice, because you see there's Chauvins everywhere. There's Chauvins in our classrooms.
Right. Wow.
There's Chauvins in public health facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons why people don't get the vaccination is not just because of the Tuskegee experiment, but because of their present conditions when they go to a hospital or a doctor. There is that climate, that culture of even punishment. This one important legal mind, last name Surratt, he says, Austin Surratt says, how we punish says more about us than who we punish. And so, we need to look at those kinds of things.
Right, right. What do you see, or what do you hope for the viewers to walk away with after viewing your film?
What we do to children. I want them to see also that the subject oftentimes has the answer to transform this society and the trajectory of their life. Dare to ask the subject, what do you need? The person on the bridge knows an answer. The person in prison knows the answer. All those kinds of things. So, but I want to look at the disparities in parole, right? Not just bring it back, but we need a racial equity lens, a community board to deal with that, right?
Yes.
And I want to look at social emotional integration. Not like, let's go over here and talk about social integration in the math, social sciences, and all of that in the sciences, to have it to have it integrated, seamlessly integrated, so that it, as in my film, Teach, we create a history, right? I want them to walk away with being compelled to talk about these things at the dinner table, at the hair salon, at the nail salon, at the barber shop, right? I want them to see themselves in this film, right? I think that this is about our shared humanity.
Okay.
And so, but also particularly some particular things, because we have a comprehensive impact campaign about bringing back parole, but not just bringing it back because it was racist anyway, right? I mean, but with a racial equity lens, social emotional training, different trainings for teachers, and those kinds of things.
Wow. Okay. So when does the film, I know you've had the trailer on the circuit of film festivals, etc. And you guys need to know Gilda has domestic and international impact. I mean, from the US to Africa, all over. And when does this film come out?
Well, like you said, it's at festivals, and there's a way that you can see the film. And want me to put it in the chat, or if
Sure.
you do, okay, it's www.edupassionriver.com.
Don't share it on social media platforms, folks, my team, because Gilda and I are working on doing a airing of it via the Justice Beat talk show. So don't share it with the audience yet. You can put it in the chat here, Gilda, but don't share it yet.
I'm not gonna do any of that. So there is a way that we can watch it, but you know, it's going to be shown at festivals more and different conferences, and I can't wait till it can be shown on the Justice Beat talk show. This is where, because these are the people, right? This is the community. Right. And I want to show it in prison. As soon as this lockdown, I'm going straight to the prison. Right.
Okay.
Okay. What's on my agenda?
Right.
Those brothers and sisters, they need to see themselves, right? To get them, that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I've been having some community showings. I showed it to a group of gang members, Crips and the Bloods.
Okay.
I sure did. And they didn't move off their seats. First they were like, oh, there's drip. Then one of the OGs said, keep watching, man. You saw how drip had changed. He talked about gang banging. He talked about those kinds of things. This film does what James Baldwin says art does. He says, to be an artist, or the role of an artist, it's like the role of a lover. If I love you, I need to show you things that you don't see. That's the role of a lover. That's the role of love. Not to say, amen, yeah. But I'm going to show you things in a very compassionate way that you don't see. And so we hope this film does that. And that's what it did when we showed it to a lot of community people, because folks wanted to clean up the neighborhood. People who looked like the folks that they cleaned it up. But cleaning up the neighborhood means that those children were going to prison. We have a person in the film who's been in prison since he was 13, an adult prison.
Whoa.
He was in prison 20-something years. And if you like, and now he's out doing phenomenal work because of the new policy about the juvenile brain. Right?
You're talking about Willard.
That you know.
That I know. Yeah, he's been on
Willard Jim. He's been on the Justice Beat. That's how wonderful that's how wonderful this radio program is. You know what I mean? You put your ear to the ground and you put us out here. But that's the role of art.
Yes.
This is art. And your illustrious crew that you have, students coming in as interns, you are creating history. I love it.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank
I
you.
love it.
And see, you're ending on a note that I wanted to talk about quickly was art. I love when people see, visionaries, because they will take what most folks will take for granted and use that to tell stories, right? A lot of people, we need to learn how, as teachers are being taught to do, to look at all of the 4 different ways people learn. And for me, I'm a visionary, meaning just basically nothing big time, but the fact that I see before I implement. So if I can see it fully, then from that point, I can implement. But if I don't see it, I can't really work with it. Using film is a great medium, because a lot of folks are not going to sit around and listen to a lecture or pick up the New York Times or the Post or the Washington Post and read this lengthy article about something on op-ed. But if you can put it squarely where they can see it and feel it and let it marinate and they can identify themselves in it, then you're going to bring about, that's that transformation piece. People can hear things all day long, but if you get a chance to sit with it and see it, then you can impact more people. And I like the medium of communications and media and film and arts, because that's really where we get down to the core and the crux of who we are and our artistic being is through those mediums. So I thank you so much for putting this together. And we will be talking because we need to follow up with our conversation about doing this collaboratively to air it to a broader audience. And I appreciate your sensitivity to the fact that our young people are in trouble. We need to cast a light on things and how can we help in the transformation process. I also appreciate your comment about ownership. We got to find ways for our young people, because I don't want this show just to be about sensationalism or griping and complaining about. I want us to be solution oriented and finding ways and alternatives to present to our young people that yes, you do have choices and you can dream.
Wow.
Okay.
You're wonderful.
Thank you.
I love the justice.
You're better. But I appreciate it. I wanted to be very honest in terms of where we are, because this is really about effectuating change at a different level, and I'm appreciating this more and more because I can see where we are doing that on so many levels, whether it's with family and friends, whether it's exposing my team to issue areas that maybe they may not have had a lot of knowledge base about. And then duplicating and replicating that effort out to the broader community. Okay. Thank you, Gilda.
Thank you. Bless you. You're phenomenal. And thank you. Wonderful crew.
And I wanted to hold to our 15-minute segment because I know you got an 8:30 to get on. So I think we did a good job.
We did.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Gilda.
Bye.
Thank you, Justice B family and our family on Real STL News for joining us again for another 15-minute segment with our special guest, filmmaker, executive producer, and director of Since I've Been Down, Miss Gilda Sheppard. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Justice Beat. If you like what you heard and found the information useful, then support the Justice Beat talk show by spreading the word and telling a friend.